message of forgiveness and freedom found in Psalm 32 reminds us that one of the greatest gifts God gives to humanity is the opportunity to begin again. Every person carries moments in life that they regret. Sometimes these moments are small mistakes, and sometimes they are decisions that weigh heavily on the heart for a long time. When people think about these past failures, they often feel shame, guilt, and fear that they will never be able to move forward. Yet the spiritual truth revealed in this psalm teaches that God's forgiveness has the power to break those chains. When a person turns to God with honesty and humility, admitting their faults and asking for mercy, God responds not with rejection but with compassion. This truth can transform a person's life because it shifts the focus from being trapped by the past to living with hope for the future. Many people wake up in the morning already carrying emotional burdens from yesterday. These burdens may include regret for harsh words spoken, poor choices made, or opportunities missed. The human mind has a tendency to replay these memories again and again, which can create a feeling of being stuck. Shame often whispers that a person is defined by their worst moment. It tries to convince people that they are not worthy of forgiveness or a new chance. However, the spiritual wisdom found in the words of the psalm teaches a completely different perspective. It says that the person whose sins are forgiven and whose wrongs are covered is truly blessed. This means that forgiveness is not simply about forgetting mistakes. It is about receiving a new sense of freedom and peace that replaces the weight of guilt. When people hide their mistakes, they often experience inner tension and emotional stress. They may try to pretend everything is fine on the outside, while their hearts feel heavy on the inside. This kind of hidden struggle can affect relationships, health, and even motivation. A person who carries secret guilt often finds it difficult to feel joy or confidence. The psalm describes this feeling as a kind of inner exhaustion that happens when someone keeps silent about their wrongs. The message here is educational as well as spiritual because it teaches the importance of honesty and self-awareness. Admitting mistakes is not a sign of weakness. It is actually a step toward personal growth and maturity. When a person acknowledges what went wrong, they create the possibility for change. Morning prayer becomes a powerful moment in this process. The early hours of the day are often quiet and peaceful, allowing people to reflect before the business of life begins. When someone starts the morning with prayer, they are essentially opening their heart before God and inviting His presence into the day. This simple act can transform a person's mindset. Instead of beginning the day with anxiety or regret, they begin with honesty, humility, and hope. In prayer, a person can say, "God, I know I am not perfect, but I trust in your mercy." That kind of sincere conversation with God can lift a tremendous emotional burden. Forgiveness also brings a sense of identity that is no longer controlled by past mistakes. Many people struggle because they label themselves by their failures. Someone might think, "I am a failure," or "I am not good enough," because of something that happened years ago. But the message of God's forgiveness teaches that a person's identity is not determined by their past sins. Instead, it is shaped by God's grace. When God forgives, He does not constantly remind a person of their past errors. Instead, He offers guidance, wisdom, and encouragement for the future. This changes how people see themselves and how they approach life. Another important lesson in this message is that forgiveness restores joy. When guilt is removed, the heart becomes lighter. People who feel forgiven often experience a renewed sense of energy and purpose. They begin to appreciate life again. Relationships improve because they are no longer hiding behind fear or shame. Gratitude grows because they recognize the mercy that has been shown to them. This joy becomes a powerful motivation to live differently and to make better choices in the future. Forgiveness also teaches compassion. When someone understands how much mercy they have received, they often become more patient and forgiving toward others. Instead of judging people harshly for their mistakes, they begin to show empathy and understanding. This creates stronger communities and healthier relationships. The cycle of grace continues as people extend the same kindness to others that they themselves have received. Ultimately, the message of this psalm encourages people to live each day with honesty before God and confidence in His mercy. Life will always include challenges, mistakes, and moments of weakness. But those moments do not have to define the entire story of a person's life. When God covers someone with forgiveness, shame loses its power. The past no longer holds the same control over the heart. Instead, the person can walk forward with courage, hope, and faith. Every new morning becomes an opportunity to begin again, trusting that God's mercy is greater than any mistake and that His love provides the strength to move forward into a brighter future. The wisdom found in Psalm 32 teaches a powerful lesson about the danger of hiding our mistakes and the inner struggle that often follows. Every human being makes errors in life. Some mistakes happen because of poor decisions, while others occur because of weakness, pressure, or lack of understanding. However, what truly affects a person's peace is not only the mistake itself, but the attempt to hide it. When people try to cover their wrong actions without honesty or confession, they often experience emotional and spiritual tension. The psalm explains that keeping silent about sin can create a heavy burden within the heart. This inner pressure can affect the mind, emotions, and even physical health, making life feel exhausting and restless. Many people believe that hiding mistakes will protect them from embarrassment or judgment. They may fear that if others discover their faults, they will lose respect or acceptance. Because of this fear, individuals sometimes build walls around their hearts and pretend everything is fine. On the outside, they may appear calm, successful, or confident, but deep inside they are carrying regret. This hidden struggle slowly drains a person's energy. Instead of focusing on growth and progress, their mind becomes trapped in worry about being exposed or feeling unworthy. The psalm describes this emotional state as a kind of spiritual dryness where the heart feels weak and joy disappears. The educational lesson in this message is the importance of honesty and self-awareness. True growth begins when a person is willing to face reality about themselves. A student who never admits their mistakes will never improve their knowledge. In the same way, a person who refuses to acknowledge their moral or personal failures will struggle to grow emotionally and spiritually. Recognizing a mistake is not an act of defeat, it is actually the beginning of wisdom. When someone says, "I made a wrong choice, and I want to learn from it," they open the door for transformation. Psychologically, hiding guilt often leads to stress and anxiety. When the mind carries a secret burden, it continuously tries to suppress the truth. This internal conflict can affect sleep, concentration, and emotional balance. People may become irritable, defensive, or distant from others. They might avoid conversations or situations that remind them of their mistakes. Over time, this emotional pressure can weaken relationships and damage self-confidence. Instead of living freely, the person becomes controlled by fear and shame. The message of the psalm encourages people to break this cycle by bringing their struggles into the light. When someone stops hiding and becomes honest before God, a powerful shift occurs. Confession is not about humiliating oneself. It is about releasing the burden that has been carried for too long. Imagine carrying a heavy bag all day without putting it down. At first, the weight may seem manageable, but as time passes it becomes exhausting. The moment you finally set it down, your body immediately feels relief. In a similar way, admitting our faults before God lifts the emotional weight from our hearts. Morning prayer is a meaningful opportunity for this kind of honesty. At the start of the day, when the world is still quiet, a person can reflect on their thoughts and actions. Instead of ignoring mistakes or pretending they do not exist, they can bring them honestly before God. This moment of truthfulness creates a deeper connection with Him. It also allows the heart to reset and begin the day with clarity. When someone admits their wrongs and asks for guidance, they are not only seeking forgiveness, but also inviting wisdom for the future. Another important lesson is that hiding mistakes often prevents learning. If someone refuses to admit a problem, they cannot find a solution. In education, students learn by correcting errors in their work. A teacher points out mistakes so that the student can understand the correct way. Life works in a similar manner. Mistakes become valuable teachers when we are willing to examine them honestly. Instead of being ashamed of failure, we can ask what lesson it is trying to teach us. This perspective transforms how people see their past experiences. Instead of viewing mistakes as permanent stains on their identity, they begin to see them as opportunities for growth. A person who once made poor decisions can become wiser and more compassionate because of those experiences. They understand the importance of humility and responsibility. They also become more patient with others who are struggling. The message also highlights the importance of integrity. Living honestly means that our inner life and outer actions match. When someone hides wrongdoing, they live with a divided heart. One part of them knows the truth, while the other part tries to maintain an image that is not real. This division creates emotional tension. But when a person chooses honesty, even if it is difficult at first, they begin to experience inner peace. Integrity brings freedom because there is no longer a need to pretend. Communities and relationships also become healthier when people practice honesty and accountability. When individuals admit their mistakes and seek forgiveness, trust can be rebuilt. Families, friendships, and workplaces thrive when people communicate openly and take responsibility for their actions. On the other hand, when mistakes are hidden and denied, conflicts grow and trust slowly disappears. Ultimately, the lesson from the psalm reminds us that silence about our wrongs can trap us in emotional darkness, while honesty opens the path toward healing. God does not desire that people live under the weight of hidden guilt. Instead, He invites them to come with sincerity and humility. When a person stops hiding and begins to speak truthfully before God, the heavy silence is replaced with relief, clarity, and hope. The heart becomes lighter, the mind becomes calmer, and the person can move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and peace. The message of confession and healing carries a deep and transformative truth about the human heart. Many people spend a large part of their lives trying to appear strong and perfect in front of others. They often hide their weaknesses, mistakes, and struggles because they fear being judged or rejected. Yet the spiritual wisdom found in Psalm 32 reveals that true healing does not come from hiding our faults, but from honestly acknowledging them before God. When a person admits their mistakes and turns to God with sincerity, something powerful begins to happen within the heart. The burden of guilt starts to lift, and a new sense of peace begins to replace the weight of shame. Confession is often misunderstood. Some people think that admitting a mistake makes them look weak or unworthy. They believe that if they ignore the problem long enough, the feelings of guilt will eventually disappear. In reality, unconfessed mistakes rarely fade away quietly. Instead, they tend to remain in the mind and heart, creating emotional tension. A person may try to move forward in life, but the memory of past actions continues to whisper in their thoughts. These hidden regrets can slowly affect self-confidence, joy, and even relationships with others. The heart begins to feel heavy because it is carrying something that was never meant to be carried alone. The beauty of confession is that it allows a person to release that heavy burden. When someone openly acknowledges their wrongs before God, they are no longer pretending or hiding. They are choosing truth instead of silence. This moment of honesty is often the beginning of emotional and spiritual healing. It creates a sense of freedom because the person no longer has to struggle with the pressure of secrecy. Instead of carrying guilt alone, they bring it into the presence of a loving and merciful God who is ready to forgive. Healing does not only mean the removal of guilt, it also means the restoration of the heart. Many people who hold on to past mistakes feel unworthy of happiness or success. They may think that their errors have permanently damaged their identity. This belief can stop them from moving forward in life. Confession challenges this mindset by reminding people that mistakes do not define who they are forever. When God forgives, He offers a new beginning. The past may remain a memory, but it no longer controls the future. Another important aspect of confession is personal growth. When someone admits their mistakes honestly, they gain a clearer understanding of themselves. They begin to see what led them to make certain decisions and what they need to change in order to grow. This self-awareness is one of the most valuable lessons a person can learn. Instead of repeating the same patterns, they begin to develop wisdom. They learn to pause, reflect, and choose better paths in the future. Morning prayer becomes a powerful setting for this process of healing and reflection. At the beginning of each day, people have an opportunity to examine their hearts and speak openly with God. This quiet moment allows them to recognize areas where they may have fallen short and to ask for guidance and strength. When someone starts the day with honest prayer, they are setting a foundation of humility and openness. Rather than pretending to have everything under control, they acknowledge their need for God's wisdom and grace. The act of confession also strengthens the relationship between a person and God. Just as honesty deepens human relationships, it also deepens spiritual connection. When someone speaks truthfully in prayer, they are expressing trust in God's mercy. They are believing that God will respond with love rather than rejection. This trust allows the heart to become more open and receptive to guidance. Over time, this relationship grows stronger because it is built on sincerity instead of fear. Healing through confession also has emotional benefits. When guilt is released, the mind becomes clearer and the heart becomes lighter. People often experience a sense of relief that is difficult to describe in words. It is similar to stepping out of a dark room into bright sunlight. The heaviness that once felt overwhelming begins to fade, replaced by calmness and hope. This emotional renewal can restore motivation, creativity, and joy. Furthermore, a person who experiences healing through confession often becomes more compassionate toward others. When someone understands how it feels to receive mercy, they become less likely to judge others harshly. They recognize that everyone struggles and that everyone needs grace at times. This understanding can transform relationships, making them more patient, forgiving, and supportive. Confession also reminds people that perfection is not the goal of life. Growth, humility, and sincerity are far more important. Human beings are naturally imperfect, and mistakes are part of the learning process. What truly matters is how a person responds after making a mistake. Someone who refuses to admit wrongdoing may remain stuck in the same patterns, but someone who humbly acknowledges their errors opens the door to change and maturity. Over time, this practice of honest reflection and confession shapes a stronger character. It encourages responsibility, integrity, and humility. Instead of living in denial, the person learns to face challenges with courage and honesty. They develop a deeper understanding of themselves and a stronger reliance on God's guidance. Ultimately, the message of confession and healing is one of hope. It reminds people that no matter how heavy their past mistakes may feel, there is always a path toward renewal. When a person chooses honesty and turns to God with a sincere heart, healing begins to flow into their life. The chains of guilt begin to loosen, and the heart finds peace again. Through confession, a person discovers that forgiveness is not just a spiritual idea, but a living reality that restores the soul and opens the door to a brighter and more meaningful future.